All right, so today we're diving into something that I think you all might find kind of interesting. You know how we're always like trying to juggle our devices and notes at the same time? Well, it looks like Lion Paper Products, they're claiming to have a solution for us. A notebook cover that also like doubles as a phone stand. And we've got an excerpt from their marketing material here. Obviously, they're trying to like sell us something, right? But I do think they touch on some pretty interesting trends in workspace design. What do you think? Is this just like a gimmick, or is this like really a sign of a bigger change in how we're all working these days?
Yeah, I think it's definitely tapping into a real need. We're all familiar with like that struggle of trying to prop up our phones while we're working, especially when we need to reference something on the screen and take notes at the same time.
Oh yeah, totally. I remember those days back in college, making those like rickety towers of textbooks just to get your phone at the right angle. This design seems to address that problem for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, the source material mentions that frustration of like holding your phone, trying to follow a tutorial or jot down notes. What I find interesting here is that they're not just selling a product, they're selling like a solution to a very common problem.
Okay, so how does this magical transforming notebook actually work? The material mentions a flexible fold design and also says something about adjustable angles. What are your thoughts on like the practicality and the durability of this whole concept?
Well, the concept itself isn't, totally new. I mean, we've seen kind of similar folding mechanisms in other things like origami and furniture design. The success of this design really hinges on, using really robust, high quality materials. For the cover and the hinges, if they can withstand like repeated folding and stuff without tearing or losing their shape, then this could be a really durable solution.
Durability is key, especially for someone like me who's kind of rough on my stuff. Speaking of materials, they've got a surprisingly wide range. PU leather, uh, cork recycled, paperboard bamboo, even vegan leather. It's pretty cool to see sustainable options in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, the choice of materials is particularly interesting. Offering like these eco-friendly options like recycled paperboard and bamboo, it aligns with, the growing consumer demand for sustainable products these days. It's not just about functionality anymore. It's about, aligning with those values.
Right. And it makes you wonder if this is just a fleeting trend or a sign of a more profound shift in consumer preferences. Do you think this focus on sustainability is here to stay?
That's a great question. I think it's probably safe to say that sustainability is becoming, more than just like a buzzword. It's a core value that's influencing, purchasing decisions across a whole wide range of industries.
So it sounds like Lion Paper Products is onto something here, both in terms of like the design and their material choices. But let's get back to the functionality for a sec. The material mentions different sizes. A5 for portability, and then A4 for like larger workspaces. And of course, phone compatibility is going to be really crucial. Seems like finding the right fit for like your own needs is going to be essential.
Yeah, choosing the right size is definitely crucial. A smaller A5 might be better if you're like constantly on the move, while a larger A4 would give you, more writing space if you're at a desk. And you're right, the phone slot needs to be able to accommodate a bunch of different smartphone sizes. It would be a major design flaw if like your phone didn't fit securely in the stand.
Now, here's something I'm curious about. They highlight all these cool features, but they don't really say anything about wireless charging integration. Wouldn't that be a game changer? Imagine you're working at your favorite cafe. Your phone's charging while you're taking notes.
That's a brilliant point. Integrating a wireless charging pad would definitely like take the convenience factor to a whole new level. It would align perfectly with that desire for a streamlined and efficient workspace.
Speaking of trends, the marketing material cites some interesting market research. Apparently, the global smart office market is projected to grow by like a whopping 11% through 2028. They also mentioned the rise of custom corporate gifting, with companies kind of ditching generic swag and moving more towards practical personalized items. And guess what? This foldable notebook seems to fit the bill perfectly.
That's a really astute observation. This projected growth in the smart office market, coupled with the shift toward more thoughtful corporate gifting, it suggests like a significant cultural shift. We're seeing a rise in remote work, blended learning environments, and this general desire for products that are like multifunctional and space saving. This foldable notebook checks all those boxes.
It's like they've really tapped into the zeitgeist, wouldn't you say? They're not just selling a notebook, they're selling a solution that really reflects the way we're working and living today. But is this just a fad or a lasting change in how we approach design?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it's too early to say, like, definitively whether it's a fad or a lasting shift. What I find intriguing is that this design kind of blurs the lines between, like, our physical and our digital workflows. It's a hybrid approach, and it really caters to the reality of how we're working today.
That's such a great point. We're like constantly going back and forth between screens and notebooks. This design really acknowledges that. It's like they've taken something as traditional as a notebook and given it a very modern makeover. Speaking of makeovers, the material mentions all these like additional features like pen loops, elastic closures, hidden pockets, even detachable phone holders.
Yeah, these extra features and they really highlight this focus on like customization and user experience. Like having a pen loop makes sure that you always have your writing tool right there, and a hidden pocket gives you a safe spot for like, important documents or business cards or something. And then the detachable phone holder offers flexibility for people who might want to use the stand on its own.
Okay, but let's be real. All those bells and whistles are nice and all, but the real test is going to be the durability of that folding mechanism. How can someone really assess that? Just from looking at the marketing materials.
Yeah, that's where you need to use a bit of critical thinking. Obviously, nothing can replace like hands-on testing, but you can look for clues in the language that they use. Phrases like reinforced hinges or like high-quality materials, or even something like tested for durability. Those kinds of things suggest that they've really thought about like the structural integrity of the design.
Good catch. I mean, no one wants a flimsy cover that's going to fall apart after a couple uses. So let's say I'm convinced, and I'm ready to buy one of these foldable notebooks. What are the key things I should think about before I make my decision?
Well, the first thing is to really honestly assess like your own needs. How are you planning on using this thing? What size feels the most comfortable for you? Are there certain materials that you prefer, like recycled paper or vegan leather?
Those are all great points. I definitely want to prioritize durability and sustainable materials for sure. I'm about minimizing my impact, you know?
Once you've thought about those like basic factors, then you can start looking at the specific features. Do you need a pen loop? Would you actually use a hidden pocket? And of course, make sure that the phone stand is actually compatible with your phone's size and that it gives you like a comfortable viewing angle.
You're reminding me of something that I hadn't even thought about. Ergonomics. The angle of the phone stand, it's got to be just right so you don't like strain your neck. It's crazy how much thought goes into designing something as simple as a notebook.
It really is, and that's what makes this design so compelling. It's not just about like how it looks, it's about addressing a real need that users have and creating a product that actually makes things more functional.
I'm starting to feel kind of like Goldilocks. Not too big, not too small, just the right fit for my needs. But beyond the specific features, I think you touched upon something really important earlier about like the blurring of lines between our physical and our digital worlds. What are the bigger implications of that kind of shift?
Yeah, that's where things get really fascinating, this blurring of boundaries. It raises some interesting questions about like work-life balance. Some people might argue that a device like this, it encourages us to be always on and makes it harder to disconnect and recharge.
That's a valid concern. It's like the double-edged sword of convenience. On the one hand, it really streamlines your workflow. But on the other hand, it could potentially blur the lines between like work time and personal time.
Precisely. It's a reminder that every innovation comes with its own set of trade-offs. But let's try flipping that around for a second. What if we look at this design not just as a tool for like individual productivity, but as a potential tool for connection?
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Imagine you're in a meeting or like a collaborative work session. Everyone has their foldable notebook out. Their phones are propped up. All the screens are synced. It could really foster a sense of shared experience, a more visually connected environment.
Interesting. It almost becomes like a shared workspace. Even if everyone is physically distant, it's like you're all looking at the same digital canvas together.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that corporate gifting trend we were talking about earlier. If companies are looking for ways to promote like a sense of unity and a shared culture, especially in a world with more remote and hybrid work, a product like this could be really powerful.
It's like a physical manifestation of their values and their commitment to innovation. I can definitely see how that would be appealing to companies.
And for employees, it's more than just like a company branded notepad. It's a tool that can help them in their everyday work, that makes them feel more connected and supported.
This is really making me think about like the psychology of design and how even seemingly simple objects can impact our behavior and sense of connection.
That's a powerful insight. And it leads us to another interesting aspect, the potential for this transformative design concept to be applied to like other everyday objects.
Oh, you're going to blow my mind again, aren't you? What other possibilities do you see? Lay it on me. What kind of everyday objects are we talking?
I mean, the possibilities are pretty exciting. Like, imagine wallets that can, like, transform into phone stands so you can take video calls hands-free, or backpacks that unfold into, like, ergonomic workstations for all those digital nomads out there. Even furniture could use these principles, adapting to, like, different spaces and needs.
Whoa, you're right. It's like we're on the verge of a design revolution or something, where objects aren't just static anymore, but like dynamic and responsive to our ever-changing lifestyles.
Exactly. This foldable notebook, it's just a glimpse into a future where design is more intuitive and adaptable and really like integrated into our lives.
It's both exciting and a little scary to think about how that could impact, our daily routines and interactions. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's bring it back to the present for a sec. For our listeners who are maybe thinking about getting one of these foldable notebooks, what's the most important thing to keep in mind?
I think the key takeaway is to just be open to new possibilities and innovation. Now, if a product solves a problem for you, if it helps you work better or make my life a little easier, give it a try. Don't be afraid to experiment and see how it fits into your own work style.
I love that. Be open to new ideas. And don't be afraid to try something different. Speaking of new ideas, was there anything else about this foldable notebook that really stood out to you? Anything that made you stop and think, that's kind of interesting?
Actually, yeah, there was one thing. The fact that they're marketing this so heavily toward like companies for corporate gifts, it raises some interesting questions. It makes me wonder if this is less about, helping individuals be more productive and more about like branding and corporate image.
That's an interesting take. So it's not just like a handy tool for employees, but it's also a way for companies to kind of subtly reinforce their brand.
Exactly. Imagine a company gives its employees this sleek, innovative notebook with their logo right on it. Every time someone uses it, it's a little reminder of the company's commitment to, forward-thinking design and a modern work culture.
It's like a walking billboard, but way more subtle and sophisticated.
Exactly. And it plays into that whole workplace culture thing that so many companies are focused on these days. By giving employees these tools that are both functional and stylish, they're sending a message like, hey, we care about your work experience. We want you to have the best tools to succeed.
It's a win-win, right? Employees get a cool new gadget, and the company gets some free advertising. It's amazing how something as basic as a notebook can become a symbol for so much more.
It really is. And I think it just shows how powerful design can be, not only to solve practical problems, but also to shape how people see things and even influence their behavior.
This has been such a great deep dive. We started with a simple notebook, and we ended up talking about the future of design, how work is changing, and even a little bit about the psychology of branding.
It just goes to show that even the most ordinary objects can lead to fascinating conversations and make us think about things in new ways.
Totally. So to wrap things up, if you're looking for a notebook, that's more than just a notebook, one that reflects, how you work and live in this digital world, then maybe check out this foldable design. Think about what you need. Prioritize durability and sustainable materials. And don't be afraid to embrace the future of design. Who knows what other awesome innovations are coming next? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.